Hey guys, welcome back to World of Warships. Today we're taking a look at the Rhode Island again because I think I've figured it out a little bit more. Played it most of the day on Monday on stream, and it's an HE spammer. I'm a little sad about that, but I was really excited for the improved pen angles on some accurate smaller caliber AP. I was very interested to see how that would go. It's just an HE spammer though. The only times you're really looking to swap over to the armor piercing on a ship like this is when there's a cruiser broadside. And even then, some of the time, it can be a little bit rough with this armor piercing. This is not going to be one of those times. This is one of my better salvos that I got with this ship. But for the most part, this thing is going to spam a lot of HE. Unfortunately, there is actually going to be an update to this ship. Unfortunately for me specifically, I made that initial Rhode Island video without the knowledge that there's a 2-second reload buff coming to this ship. So it's going to get much, much better. So that's my bad. I do apologize for that, not seeing that buff coming. So we are going to get a better ship and one that's better at HE spamming even yet. So could be a little rough to fight against this ship. We will see. Again, HE into DDs, looking very, very nice here. A couple nasty salvos into some of these destroyers. But it's not just DDs, it is angled battleships as well. The AP can do fine into battleships too, but I found that the pen is lacking. I don't know. Just whatever it is about the armor piercing on this ship, it's just not very satisfying to use. So, HE into an Azumo here. If we're hitting all our shells, which isn't all the time, but some of the time we are, that is 16,650 damage into an Azumo, plus a fire. That is an excellent salvo out of a Conqueror or a Thunderer. Like, that's ridiculous. Going again into this poor Azumo here. Assuming we hit a lot of shells, 14,889 damage. And another fire. Poor guy, right? That's why you're probably going to spam HE out of this thing. The armor is pretty bad on this ship as well. Just generally take note throughout this video how I'm taking a lot of damage from a lot of different ships. Whether you're sure broadside, of course we're going to take a lot of damage, but even angled, this ship takes a ton of damage. Montana turning broadside to us, certainly an angle we could get a Citadel. 23,000 damage there is fine, but no Citadel is a little disappointing, I will admit, with this ship, just because at these ranges we should be able to pen, and that improved pen angles should be helping us out here, and yet it doesn't feel like it is. A little bit underwhelming, like I've said. The fast cooldown heals are nice, the speed boost is very nice, as well as that radar, but I think this ship is often going to play a little farther back rather than make use of that radar, just because it lacks some survivability here. Nice salvo into the Alaska though, while he was turning there, raised his Citadel up for us. Very, very nice to see. Don't get me wrong, I do think this is a pretty good ship. I just found it a little disappointing when I found out that AP is really not the way to go with this ship. I still shoot it quite a lot in this video just because throughout the day on Monday I was slowly discovering that I should just have HE loaded in the tubes most of the time. The test commanders we get for these ships don't actually have improved skills, so when you do get this ship, if you do get this ship, because it is Lootbox only, you got to gamble on this one for now. Getting it with a special commander on here, whether that's going to be Halsey or just one of the other more normal ones, it will benefit a lot from the improved gun feeder. I think it's George Doe, I think, or John Doe. I think those are the other ones alongside Halsey that have that improved gun feeder. That's going to be amazing on this ship. There you saw just how powerful that radar can be. 9 kilometers, 40 seconds. Very, very powerful. Don't get me wrong. I just think that in general, this is going to be a very difficult ship to make use of that radar without overcommitting. This ship can die rather quickly. So it's a nice utility thing to have, but I think we're going to be more focused on staying a little further back and then making use of that HE a little bit more. Broadside St. Louis there, getting ourselves a Citadel. Pretty nice, but this is a little earlier on in the day, so I was still looking for those opportunities. Notice how much time has passed in this game. I haven't actually been shooting all that much, waiting for those broadside cruisers, and in this game we're actually going to get a decent payoff. I believe this was actually my only real dev strike onto this rune. The other ones, I left a couple of Des Moines on pretty low HP, which are still nice salvos, but this is the only one that would have counted and got me that Dev Strike medal if it wasn't a test ship. Test ships, if you didn't know, don't actually receive any achievements, or they don't actually count towards your stats either, which is a little annoying because I would have liked to see what my averages were like in this ship. It's possible this is another one of those ships where I actually average a lot of damage and it's actually very good, but while I'm playing it, I'm a little bit frustrated with it, or a little annoyed with some of the salvos. Someone citadeled that Piemonte quite nicely, and then we get our shot in there. 4 overpens, unfortunately. It is, though, going to have battle cruiser dispersion, so the shells are generally going to be a little tighter than battleships, but that Sigma is letting us down, I think. Of course, Florida guns on this ship. If you didn't know what this ship is, think of it like a Georgia with Florida guns on it, plus a radar, and worse arm. Nice little blind shot there into the Piemonte. Figured he was turning out with his smoke, so aimed sort of where I thought it might be. And we do manage to hit that shot. So a lot of these games were reasonably good. I just found them a little bit underwhelming with this armor piercing. And I'm going to stick on that because I've wanted improved pen angle AP on a battleship for so long. I was really, really excited for it. So unfortunately, this St. Louis has come out broadside to us, and we get 6 overpens. So even though these are smaller caliber guns, they are typically going to shatter on a lot of battleship Citadel armor, at least at longer ranges. It's something like 10 kilometers for a Yamato belt. Outside of that, we are going to start shattering, and then we do find ourselves overpenning cruisers as well. So we don't get the benefits of big caliber AP giving us the punching power at longer ranges, and we don't get the benefits of smaller caliber AP at closer ranges where we're overpenning less. A little frustrating there, certainly. But that's really what this ship is. In general, you should think of this as a Georgia at tier 10, where you have worse armor, and you gain a radar and these Florida guns. That's kind of what this thing is. So it's all right. I don't think it's going to be any sort of meta-defining battleship. The radar will certainly be powerful when you meet it in ranked, for example. But in random battles, it'll probably get farmed out rather quickly if it rushes in to get that radar online. Broadside Satsuma, we do take him out. Fair enough, but keep in mind that is 3 shatters there, even at that range on a Satsuma. But that's actually 5 kills. That's a Kraken in this game in particular here. So I did have good games in this ship. I feel like this is just kind of a average ship. It's got a ton of gimmicks. It's really hard to evaluate for me, actually. The gimmicks are extremely strong, having that speed boost. The speed, when you have brisk on this ship, if you're taking that, you're going upwards of 41, 42 knots, so the flanking potential is immense. The radar, of course, is going to be very powerful. 9 kilometer 42nd, of course, very, very, very powerful. I love this heals, right? These are my favorite heals in the game as far as just their utility. Their cooldown is amazing for helping you push in or helping mitigate some damage a lot of the time. In this case, though, we are going to try and push in and catch the DD and maybe this Kitakami with our radar. Unfortunately for us, we actually don't. We have so many teammates here that I thought maybe I would try pushing in here. And as soon as I didn't find that Kitakami with that initial radar, I figured we were probably done. Nice triple Citadel into the Des Moines there on most tier 10 battleships. That's going to be a lot of damage. And it is here too, but he's still left with 16,000 HP in this one. Even though he went broadside to us at, what, 12 kilometers? I don't know. We give up so much on these guns, right? I know that's a good salvo. I know I shouldn't complain about a salvo like that. But at the same time, the AP is so much weaker than most of the battleship AP at this tier. I was hoping for a little more when we do find people making mistakes. It's so bad against angled targets that I was hoping it would do more when we meet broadside targets, that is. So the torpedo's definitely going to take us out here. A good example of what happens if you get a little too aggressive in this ship. And that happened a few times, actually. I slowly made myself play a little bit more passive most of these games. So here you can see just kiting right away, spamming HE. And in fact, this one is my best game I had in the Rhode Island. At least so far, it is a pretty solid one. But you're going to notice it's mostly that HE spam that we're going to be using. And it's quite good. Keep in mind, a 2-second reload buff on top of this is going to be very, very powerful. So decent accuracy here, and if you're landing a lot of those shells in maybe areas where you're not going to shatter on, you know, Monty guns or something like that. You're going to do a lot of HE alpha damage as well on top of the fire chance. That Izumo, those two Izumo salvos earlier on in this video were just insane, right? If you're getting those kind of salvos on people, this ship's going to feel amazing. But there's a little more normal, I would say, 6,000 damage into a Montana. Much more normal salvo out of the HE on this ship. It's no Conqueror or Thunder as far as the alpha is concerned. And same with the fire chance. Although, given that you're a little more accurate than those two ships, and you certainly have a better reload, especially coming once it releases, you don't have to worry too much about lighting those fires, I don't think. You can still get a lot of damage out of the fires with this ship. Now, while I think this ship is just okay as a tier 10, and maybe even good if you're enjoying the HE spam, I don't think it's worth getting. And that's mainly down to the delivery method of this ship. It's going to be in loot boxes. You got to gamble for this one in this update. If you're watching this on the Wednesday that this video does release, of course, on NA, we've already got the update, and you can probably see in the armory where that loot box is. It's going to be 46 bundles, and it's going to be in one of those 46 random bundles, and each of those bundles will be 2,000 doubloons each. Currently not sure about the discount in bulk, how much it will be, but assuming no discount, that's 92,000 doubloons. That's a lot. And of course, there's no guarantee you get it in the first 5 or 10 or 20 boxes, right? It could be that last box for you. Unless it's that initial pull when you first open up the armory, I would not recommend going for this ship. But that's just me. I think that's just a little too expensive for what this ship is. Of course, if you've got like a ton of money to burn on this game and you just want to have it, sure, go for it. But if you're looking for good value, I do not think this is going to be good value. I'm pretty disappointed that it is such a interesting ship, I guess, even though I don't think it's amazing. I think it's very interesting just given all the gimmicks that this ship does have, because it certainly has a lot. Disappointed that this thing is in just loot boxes and no word necessarily on what it will be available for when it comes out later on. And the word is that it's going to be around a year until this ship will be available again. So that kind of FOMO early access to this ship only available through loot boxes, I personally disagree with. I really dislike that a lot, actually. And I don't really have a problem with Wargaming monetizing the game. It's a free-to-play game that's going to come with a lot more monetization tactics than a $60 or a $90 AAA game these days, of course. But I don't think we need the random chance gambling aspect of it, personally. I would rather see them maybe still have the loot boxes, maybe still have the gambling side of it, but just allow people to buy it outright for a reasonable price. Not a huge fan, of course, of just selling tier 10 premiums in general, but we've already had that with ships like Napoli, Yoshino. That ship has sailed, I guess we would say. I suppose a positive side of this is at least Rhode Island isn't a flat-out OP must-have ship that you have to gamble for. I think it's just kind of mediocre. But getting back to this game, we're going to have a very nice salvo here on the Mecklenburg, and we're going to take $1 billion in return from him. We already took 10k HE plus a double fire there, and we do 27,000 in return back to him with the armor piercing. That was easily my best AP salvo into a German battleship. Without getting citadels, that was the best I could possibly do. Round 2, very similar angle, very similar shot, and we're going to see a little different damage number. 11,000, less than half of what we got before. That's the RNG aspect, of course, to battleships, but given how small caliber these guns are, I would have preferred them to be a little more consistent. Maybe instead of that 2-second reload buff, maybe give it a little better accuracy buff. Make the AP a little better, make the HE a little worse, that kind of thing. I get another 12,000 damage. Notice this incoming salvo hits us in the superstructure. That's that infamous Georgia superstructure weakness for you. So we take like 15k to our angled superstructure just like that. It's rough, guys. When you get focused in this ship, you die very quick. So that's where a 9-kilometer radar, well, very strong and possibly OP on a battleship this quick. I really don't think you're going to last all that long if you're consistently pushing up to get that radar on target, especially early game. If you're pushing up for your radar early game, you are going to die very quickly in this ship. I did jump ahead here because there wasn't a lot of gameplay, even though we did actually jump our damage number up quite a bit. What happened was the Mecklenburg damage con to fire, and then I got a permanent double fire as he was going dark. Got very, very good RNG against him when it came to the fires. That's where that fire, that's why our damage number is a little bit higher here as this game is coming to an end. This was a bit of a closer one, certainly. Not the blowouts like we saw over the Christmas holidays as much, which was nice to see. But still, our team is a little stronger in this one and probably going to finish this one out properly. But 235k already is pretty nice. Notice we are out of our heals in this one, so getting yourself up to 5 heals I think is going to be very important in the Rhode Island. And we'll take a look at the build after this game is done, but you probably noticed that we're not actually getting that many secondary hits because I'm not running secondaries anymore on this ship. As a result of just dying a lot very quickly as I tried to push in, both for the radar but also for secondaries, I found the secondaries hardly did any damage, and I was dying very, very quickly without getting any value out of them. So it's better to just play farther back than try and force a secondary battleship on this thing. It's possible. They do have Georgia secondary reload and accuracy, I believe. But some of the damage numbers I was seeing was just not worth it, especially when we could maybe maximize our main guns a little bit more, survive longer to make use of these main guns, that kind of thing. So I apologize for bringing up the menu like that. I think someone probably asked what my camera settings were in Twitch chat when I was playing this game. 40 -5, I guess, is what I'm playing at. So there you go, YouTube, if you wanted to know, that's what our camera settings are right now. Getting some nice citadels into the Hornet yet. 265, can we bump that up even further? Yes. 283, so that's the best I managed to do in the day that I played Rhode Island so far. I'll probably play this thing some more, especially once I get it on my main account and actually can see the stats over time. It'll be interesting what the average damage of this thing will settle out to. Really not sure. It could be very, very high given the DPM that this ship will have once it's buffed a little bit more. And the HE is incredibly powerful, but that's not exactly the most enjoyable damage, at least for me. I certainly would prefer AP, especially on a battleship. I just find it more satisfying personally. As for the build here on the Rhode Island, I do think a pretty standard battleship build is probably going to fit best for this thing. Not trying to force those secondaries, really just playing at medium range, HE spamming as much as you possibly can on those other battleships on the enemy team, and then only swapping to the armor piercing when you find that perfect shot on a broadside cruiser. I don't even know if it's worth it swapping to the AP for a broadside battleship. I'm not sure. We'll have to do a little bit more testing. This is the build that I sort of landed on, I guess. Really wanting gun feeder, of course, because, I mean, I just hate spamming HE only out of battleship. It just feels so bad to me. Just not what I enjoy doing personally, but I do need to do it in this ship, and I want the ability to swap over to that AP when I need to, or would like to. Grease the gears, of course. Getting us faster turret traverse is nice. 30 seconds here is decent, I guess. Heavy AP and Furious. Yeah, I just decided to go with this build. Instead of going with fire prevention and maybe taking Brisk as well, I decided to go like this. Not sure if it was necessarily worth it if I'm spamming HE most of the time, but like I said, I was trying to force AP as much as I could. So I was trying to buff it as much as I possibly could to make it feel a little better. And even then, the HE is still probably just better. Might be worth it to actually just drop heavy AP. Keep Furious. I think just having the DPM is nice. And then going with something like Brisk, for example. Like I said, the speed you get is unbelievable. With the speed boost in Brisk, I was up over 41 knots. So very fast flank, and that can be very valuable, especially in things like ranked, but even in random battles, getting out to the flank, surprising people early can net you some pretty nice salvos. As for the upgrades, of course, we are going main gun accuracy. I did try reload mod, and the dispersion was even more trolly than it is with accuracy mod. No surprise there, but, you know, I was hoping that maybe with battlecruiser dispersion that maybe this didn't make as big a difference and I could run reload to maybe pump more DPM out, and it really felt awful. So I would still stick with accuracy mod, Concealment mod, of course. I'm running prop here because prop mod plus engine boost can actually dodge a lot of incoming fire. This is not a ship you want to be tanking hits with. You want to be dodging those hits coming in because it hurts. It hurts a lot. Range mod on the guns, not really for the extra range because your shell velocity gets so bad out to those longer ranges. It's a little harder to hit things. But just for the small increase in accuracy. If you didn't know, the bigger your range is, the better your accuracy is slightly. It's not even close to what accuracy upgrades are doing, but some people data mined some things years ago and discovered that. Just a weird quirk of this aiming system. So going with that, even over secondary mod, because even though we have Georgia secondaries, they're all right. I just didn't find myself using them. Engine boost, of course, to make use of our incredible speed. 15% here is amazing. Lasts quite a long time, especially with the upgrade. If you don't have the upgrade, just run damage control system, something like that. I do think engine boost mod 1 is more important than surveillance radar mod 1. 40 seconds is already a long time, especially for a 9-kilometer radar in tier 10 with a ship this big and not very tanky. I don't think you need the extra time on the radar. I think you're better off taking engine boost mod. And I'm actually running damage control party mod 1 as well. I didn't notice my guns get takeout that much. It did happen, but not as much. So having that longer duration can be quite nice because this ship can get focused a lot. Don't know if that's just new test ship syndrome, but it got focused a lot. So having a little more immunity time from the HE spam can be very, very useful. And just before we go, of course, taking a look at the armor again, it's 27. It's not even 32. So the general idea of this ship, or a general description, of course, would be it's a Georgia with worse armor, as we can see here, and Florida guns plus a radar at a tier higher. I think that's probably what makes the most sense when it comes to describing this ship. And I think, all that makes a pretty decent tier 10 ship, especially once we see that 2-second reload buff. I think the HE spam will be even more powerful on this thing. Unfortunate that it is the HE, not the AP, where, again, guys, that's something I thought about for so long, especially when it comes to Montana. I was like, what could they do to Montana to make it a really cool buffed battleship in this year? It's been forever that Montana's been in the game. It could maybe use a little something. I don't know. What if we gave it improved pen angles on the AP? Of course, that would just be insane because those 406s with improved pen angles would be ridiculously powerful. But hey, maybe 356s? Let's try it out. And then it's just kind of weak. I don't know. Maybe I got my hopes up too high. I was a little too disappointed in that. Maybe that's clouding my judgment here, my overall impressions of this ship being a little more negative, but there you go. That's what I think about Rhode Island after quite a few games in it, and don't worry, I'll still play it some more once it's on my main account. We'll see some more games with this thing, but for now, that is going to do it on the Rhode Island. I hope you guys enjoyed the new update, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.